Hello and welcome to Ascent Basecamp, a video series designed to answer your Construction 101 questions. Here today with us we have Justin Bride, founder and principal of Ascent Contracting Incorporated, and Brooklyn Doherty, architect and co-owner of Cult Creative architecture and design firm. We're going to kick off this first video series with a question that we hear over and over as professionals in this industry. Where do you start? Do you start with the builder, with the designer, with the architect? And what are the advantages or differences to choosing to start with one professional over the other? Justin, let's start with you.
Yeah, so we do hear that question all the time. And I hear that question from people who have either contact an architect already or we're the first contacts. And really I would say that there's no right or wrong answer. You should start with either of the two, but I think what's most important is that you start with both pretty close together. So if someone ends up calling an architect first to talk about their project, it's important for them to talk with a builder later, soon afterwards, to talk about the feasibility and the construction timelines and of course the price of the project. So from my perspective, it's not as important who they start out with, but that they start out with the two of them almost concurrently.
Okay, that's really, really helpful. And Brooklyn, what would you add?
Yeah, so definitely starting with both contractor and architect so that we can collaborate throughout the whole process. But also knowing exactly kind of what you're looking for, kind of what's the problem you're trying to solve with this project, and what are you willing to pay for it. So what is your budget that you're trying to meet, so that the contractor and architect have realistic expectations of kind of what our starting point is and the direction that we're going.
Wonderful. That's a really interesting perspective, and I think will be helpful to our viewers. Next, I'd love to hear what number one thing allows the builder and the architect to best collaborate and work together. Brooklyn, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, I think it's always communication, right? So at the end of the day, we have the same goal, which is to produce a beautiful project for our clients. And the more we can communicate, the better we can make that happen, both in terms of timeline as well as in terms of budget. So as designers and architects, we come up with, hopefully beautiful designs, and when we can collaborate with a contractor is when we can make those designs cost effective and easy to build in the field, and just have a good working relationship throughout the process.
Thank you, Brooklyn. And Justin?
Yeah, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. In fact, you brought up something that always resonates with me about how we're designing and building a project that is beautiful and for the homeowner, and the key words being there for the homeowner. And that sometimes either a builder or an architect maybe don't have the homeowner's goals as their number one priority. And so when you can I find that when we work well together, and when any builder and contractor work well together, it's because we don't have our own interests primarily at heart, but we have the client's interests at heart.
Totally agree.
Let's end this first episode with one final question: is when do you start? What is a typical timeline? Because we know there's a lot of false information out there about how long this process takes. So Justin, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah. I was just talking with a potential client this morning who's in their first conversations about the project, and I let her know that if history is a guide, and if our past clients are a guide, if you're having this first conversation today, you probably shouldn't expect to have a shovel digging into the ground for about a year is a realistic timeline. Because normally it seems like there's a couple months for clients to even really figure out what they have, what they want to do, what their budget is, and then they start moving into a direction, and then it seems like a design timeline can be anywhere from 3 to 9 months, depending on the client and depending on the project, and then permitting after that. As far as construction timelines, though, of course, it's always project specific, but I would say any sort of, it's tough to have any interior remodel, like significant interior remodel, be less than 3 or 4 months. Most often it's between 4 and 6 months. Same with a back of house addition might be Really tough to get less than 5 months, and it's more like 5 to 8 months. Normally any pop top or larger might be in the minimum 10-month range. Yeah.
Okay, that's really, really helpful to know a realistic timeline.
Brian, Brooklyn, how do you feel about my construction timeline?
I think that's great on construction. I think, like you said, it's true that it can be up to a year just in the design phase itself. And, that really depends on a client and how sure they are of their decisions. Once they see things, how long do they really need to kind of process and understand, like, okay, this is going to be your home. Like, it's a big decision. And so some clients, will be ready to move on quickly. Other clients need more time to kind of sit with things. And so even for small projects, our minimum timeline is about 3 months all the way up to over a year, depending on the project and the whole process.
Okay.
Yeah.
This has been a very informative first episode. Thank you both so much for coming on air with us. If you are interested in starting a home build or renovation and have any questions for us, please, we would love to hear them and answer them. You can access our Instagram or Facebook page to submit a query. Thank you so much.